Hi everybody, hope you're all well. We've had such a busy week. We've been in the garden pruning trees and cutting back bushes and having a bit of a tidy up and making plans for a big job we're going to do of an overhaul just outside the kitchen window here. And it's been a tiring week. We also had a big run into Galway, the nearby city, and bought lots of lovely new pots and planters. So I'm just about to make a cup of tea and go and relax with some books. So I'm going to take my lovely cup of herbal tea next door into the living room and to have an evening with my feet up. So come on, I'll show you my books. So what could be better than a lovely cup of herbal tea, relaxing at the end of a busy week, and a lovely pile of books to go through. So I just thought I'd share with you some of my favourite herbal books, some of the books I enjoy reading for pleasure, and a couple of other handy little books that you might be interested in if you're thinking about becoming more self-reliant and maybe making more things at home. So this book is the Rodale Herb book, and this was in the library in England when I lived in England, and then it was taken off circulation, so they just were giving it away. And it's got everything in here, from growing herbs to using them for soap making, dyeing, for medicine, for everything. And it's a lovely book to really get started and get develop a love for herbs. So this is one of my old favourites. It's like an old friend. But a new book that I've just got is called Radical Remedies, and this is by Brittany Ducham. And it's very, very good because it's extremely easy to follow and easy to understand. And the tenets of herbalism, the idea of energetics, they're all very, very well explained. So it's brilliant for a beginner or for anybody who just wants to come to herbalism from a slightly different perspective. So that's a new one I'm currently working with, as is this one, The Garden Apothecary. And this is by a lady called Becky Cole, who lives in Northern Ireland. And it's beautifully photographed. It's on lovely paper. And apart from telling you, how to grow herbs and the kind of herbs that would be beneficial to this climate, she's also got lots of lovely recipes. It is an apothecary book after all, so there's lots of recipes for medicines and beauty products and teas and winter remedies and everything like that. So it's really lovely. That would make a wonderful gift for someone who's starting out with herbs. And then, because I'm in Ireland, I'm very fond of this book, because not only is it telling me all about the wild plants that grow here and the medicinal properties, but there's loads of history and folklore. And it's not just focused on Ireland, it's on the British Isles. So there's Scottish folklore in here, there's English folklore, and there's lots of Irish folklore. And all the Irish names are in here, and all the reasons that people would have had these plants around them. So it's a much beloved book because it's got the myths, the legends, the folklore and medicinal properties and all kinds of anecdotal stories. It's really lovely. It's a kind of reference book in a way, and I love this book. So if you are a student of herbalism, you may already know of the Back to Eden book, which is not just about herbalism, but it's also got lots of naturopathic techniques in here. He uses water back in the 30s and 40s when he's working. He uses water a lot as part of his cures. And obviously there's a lot about nutrition and diet as well. So that's another really brilliant all-round book for somebody who wants to develop a herbal practice or just a healing practice, and also just to be self-reliant in terms of health. So the mother of wise women in terms of herbalism is Juliette Bairacli Levy, And I have a couple of herb books. This one is for the farm and stable. So again, if you're going off grid and you want to keep animals, this is a great book to have, because she has, she goes through all the types of complaints and issues that an animal could be maybe suffering with, but also gives you all the herbs and the remedies as well. So that's a wonderful book. She does cover dogs in here, but not, she has another book about dogs and cats and pets, but I don't have that one. Now for me, because I believe that all the plants have their own spirit and that we should communicate with them and we should approach them and ask for their medicine, this is a book which reminds us of the way our recent ancestors in the last century or so would have approached plants. Now in here, these chants and verses are mainly, they've been Christianized, but you can kind of tell that they would have been original pagan ways of approaching plants from pre-Christian times. And this is by a guy who went around the Highlands and the islands of Scotland in the late 19th century. He was a surveyor, I think he was a surveyor, but he was also very interested in the old traditions and folklore. So there's lots of really beautiful chants and songs in here about different plants, and appealing to people like Bridget, the Saint Bridget. She was very, very popular, and there's lots of little prayers and chants in here about her. So again, it ticks the box for me because it's historical, it's folkloric, and it's about plants as well. It's just a lovely thing to have in your collection, because, you know, we don't want to just be blinkered about herbal medicine. Let's be open and understand that we can work with plants in many different ways, which is again why the Wild Irish Plants is so lovely as well. I think it's very interesting that despite modern life bringing us the smartphone and the computer, books were supposed to be phased out several years ago. People imagined that books would just disappear because the internet was there. But apparently there are more books sold now than ever before. And it's no wonder, because there's, I mean, look, I'm cuddled up here with all these books. And it's no wonder, because there's such a pleasure for all the senses, because when you're reading something, you can be transported, you can be transported, you can have your emotions triggered, you can have your imagination triggered, you can learn things, you can feel stronger and wiser after reading a book. So there's loads of reasons why I love books. And I suppose it was because as a child, I used to watch my godmother, my beloved Auntie Tess, reading. And I used to try to see what was she doing. I wanted her attention, and I could see all these words. I didn't know what they meant. So I decided I'm going to start to read as quickly as I can, because I want to be just like her. And I remember she took me to the library when I was about 4, just before I started school. And the thrill of getting books is something, that moment, I've never forgotten it. So even today, when I go into a bookshop or I order online, the thrill of getting that book in your hands is just something that will never wane for me. It's just something that is one of the biggest pleasures. And if you look around our house, we've got bookshelves on practically every wall. So I just think a book is all, wherever you are, you're never lonely when you have a book, and they're just the best companions. So let me tell you then about one of my favourite companions, Wilkie Collins. Wilkie Collins is a Victorian author. He was a protege of Charles Dickens, and he's fascinating. If you like literature, I was just discussing this with one of our patrons actually. If you like literature, Wilkie Collins is one of those authors that stand out, because he developed this new style, even though I suppose the novel was still in an early form at that time. But he has this technique where he will tell you the story as if people are sat in a circle describing the events. Certainly with the Moonstone, which is one of his most famous novels, that is the case. It's a mystery detective story kind of thing, and it's just nail-biting. It's very exciting. So that's a bit of a collection of his here. But I would, if you like old literature, if you like Dickens, you will love Wilkie Collins. And another favourite novel of mine that I return to time and time and time again. I've had this book for about 30 years and I've read it I don't know how many times. It's the Book of Kells, and it's set in Ireland 1,000 years ago, and it's a bit of time travel, a bit of history, a bit of magic. It's just one of those that you find something new in it every time you read it. I don't know, it's just one of those novels that gets under the skin. So if you like a good read, I would recommend that, the Book of Kells. Another book that I really enjoyed was, it's a book by Eddie Lenihan. He is our national folklorist. He's a national treasure. He collects oral histories from people who have had experience with the little people or the fairies. And this is a book all about meeting the other crowd. And some of these stories go back to, well, they'll go back 150 years, but it's people who are elderly now, but would have heard these stories when they were very young, because they would have been passed down in the local folklore. And Eddie has collected them. And if you look him up, he's on YouTube. He is such an incredible character. He looks like, what can I say? He looks like a little fairy man himself. He's got a huge, big, long beard. And he's got crazy wild hair. And he was instrumental in protecting a fairy tree or a lone hawthorn from one of the county councils who were planning to take it down for a motorway. But because he warned them, and because there were some incidents, eventually the council did listen to him, and now the motorway goes around the tree. And you can Google it, you'll see it. It's incredible. So Eddie Lenihan is a wonderful storyteller. He's a proper Shawnee, and this is just a lovely book of old stories about people meeting the other crowd. And this is a book by Susan Fletcher called Witchlight. I've just finished reading this. And it's beautiful prose. It's set in the 1690s. It's set in the Scottish Highlands, and it's about the massacre at Glencoe. So it's quite political. But the main thing about it, the main protagonist in it, is this beautiful spirit of a girl who is completely at home in nature. And talking to one of my students just the other day about getting into nature and becoming almost feral. This girl is feral in here in this book, and she makes you want to go out in all weathers and just be at home in nature. And she sees everything that's happening, and she's aware that everything is connected. Every single being and non-animate being is connected. So apart from the political historical story of the massacre of Glencoe, there's this other theme of being completely embedded in nature. You are nature, you're feral. We've just been too domesticated for too long, and this is a reminder that we need to get back outside. And if you're interested in becoming more self-reliant and self-sustainable, this little book is really sweet. It's very handy. It's Grandma's Ways for Modern Days, revisiting traditional skills. So there's cookery, there's animal husbandry, making your own butter and cheese, repairing and recycling, all kinds of lovely little tips and projects that you can do. And again, it's a lovely little kind of reference book to just dip into, but full of wisdom as well. And then finally, for this batch, I have here a book about vinegar. And somebody asked me on the comments last week, is it true that apple cider vinegar is so efficacious for so many things? And yes, it most certainly is. It's a natural antibiotic. It can help with fat management in the body. So a spoonful of apple cider vinegar every morning in warm water is going to reduce cholesterol. It's going to help your blood sugar so that your weight becomes more balanced. It's going to help you get rid of infections. You can gargle with it. You can apply it to, say, a fungal toenail or whatever. You can also use it for arthritis, in that, again, it's going to break up all the little uric acid crystals that get into your joints and cause all that pain. So it's a wonderful thing to put with honey and with fruits. You can use it as a tincture menstruum if you don't want to use alcohol. But this book goes through all the vinegars. So distilled vinegar, apple cider vinegar, malt vinegar, and tells you how you can use vinegar for your health, your beauty, your well-being, as well as all around the house if you want to do natural cleaning. You know, it can reduce things like pet odor. You can use it if you are preserving. You can use it to make you can flavor it with herbs, so you could have lovely herbal vinegars. And you can also use it for head lice, for colds and cold sores. It's just really, what does it say? Thousands of household uses. And it was only $6.99. It was one of those special offers, but it's a really brilliant investment. So, obviously, I'm not sponsored by Wilkie Collins because he's long dead, but I'm not sponsored by any of these people. These are just my own personal favourites at this moment. Because I'm such an avid reader, I have different favourites every day of the week. But these are the favourites today that I wanted to tell you about, and I will leave a list of all the books below in the box below. So if you're interested in looking any of them up, you'll be able to find them. And I wish you a lovely, relaxing weekend with your own favourite book. So I'm going to get back to my novel, and I've nearly finished it, Witchlight by Susan Fletcher. And I'm just going to finish this off now with my cup of herbal tea. So cheers. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website darnewsirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the Weed Handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.